AVE 103 is Spain's blazing fast, high-speed train service.
We are traveling at the same speed of a Formula One car.
But controlling a train with a top speed of 350 kilometers per hour means building a network from the ground up. They're gonna detonate, and there's no margin for error, especially when the weather turns. I'm traveling on Spain's massive high-speed rail network, on board one of the fastest trains on Earth. It's the train that changed Spain, the high-speed AVE 103.
The Madrid-Barcelona line is the most important line in Spain because it's the busiest, the one with the most trains. During rush hour, we have a train every 15 minutes in the morning.
The anchor point for the rail system is Atocha Station in the capital city of Madrid. Built back in the 1800s, Atocha Station is Madrid's busiest rail hub, with over 20 million people traveling through it every year. Upgrading to handle high-speed trains required new platforms and training a new generation of drivers, like Jamie Arroyo. So you're the driver. I mean, I'm really excited to take this train. I've never been on one that goes this fast. It must be incredible to drive it.
Sí, bueno, está...
Yeah, well, it's exciting to ride at such a high speed. It's much better than going slow.
Y está bien.
It's 621 kilometers from Madrid to Barcelona. On the first leg, we'll head east, passing through Zaragoza. Then into Catalonia, past the city of Lleida, and south through the mountains near Mont Blanc, before following the coastline north to Barcelona. We'll rocket through that 621-kilometer route in just 2.5 hours. The same trip in a conventional train would take 3 times as long. But it will be tough to meet that schedule today.
It snowed on the line.
A weather report forecasts heavy snow farther down the tracks.
Sure, it will affect the schedule, going from 300 kilometers per hour down to 160.
The driver has to trust that his train is in top condition, especially in dodgy weather. In the repair bay, mechanics go over every moving part in the chassis.
A wheel wears out after a certain number of kilometers.
Because every deformity is magnified at high speed, the wheels are shaved smooth by a steel lathe.
If you don't do maintenance, it could cause a derailment.
Even with the extra work, the wheels can only take so much.
So in this case, we have not enough material to refurbish the wheel for another time. So they're going to change the axles, so we will get new wheels installed on the bogie.
It's critical work because the higher the speed, the faster those parts wear out. Back on the platform, ground crews clean and restock the train, while driver Jamie runs through his checklist.
By regulation, we need to do a brake test. It's always the first thing we have to do.
The routine is like a pilot preparing a passenger jet.
If there's anything out of order, well, then, of course, it wouldn't depart.
The AVE 103 is 3.9 meters high, 3 meters wide, and 200 meters long. It consists of 8 coaches made of lightweight aluminum. There's a driver's cockpit at either end, and room for 405 passengers. There are 2 fare classes, preferred and tourist, with a bar car in between. Victoriano Martin Llobel is a 15-year veteran of Spain's high-speed rail program. He's the onboard service supervisor.
Once we have verified that the train is in perfect condition, We make a call so that travelers can come aboard.
Yet boarding the train today is more complicated than it used to be. Although the atmosphere at Atocha is beautiful, security is a major concern at the station, especially since terrorist attacks rocked Madrid's rail network back in 2004. Hola. March 11th, 2004. Terrorists set off 10 bombs on 4 separate commuter trains. The explosives were smuggled on board in backpacks and detonated as the trains pulled into Atocha station. 191 people were killed and more than 1,800 injured. Director of Security Antonio Bertomeo oversees the station's new, tighter security.
We have warning systems, weapon detectors, intrusion alarms. Cameras have much better quality, and the scanners that we use have also evolved.
Travelers going through baggage scanners and pat-downs see only the first wave of security. This is the nerve center for surveillance and security here at the station. There's 374 cameras that can be pulled up on these monitors 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They can zoom in incredibly close. On the ground, a special unit of the National Police patrols the station.
Vamos a identificar a este chico que...
Vale.
Hola. Buenas tardes, caballero. ¿Me permite su documentación?
Sí, ¿algún problema?
No, ninguno.
The police are on the lookout for potential trouble.
Those situations of nervousness, of looking for something, well, those are somewhat peculiar conditions that are detected and that the operators can easily notice.
Also on the security team, 52 highly specialized police dogs.
There are dogs for sniffing drugs, explosives, locating hidden people, human remains, currency, and fire accelerants.
It's an all-out effort to protect passengers and trains. The AVE 103 has 26 departures each day and a really tight schedule for each one. Every passenger has to be through security and on board the train at least 2 minutes before it leaves. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. With just minutes before departure, passengers pile onto the train and attendants make final checks.
We're on time with an 8:30 departure for the train. We left at the scheduled time, and our first and only stop will be Zaragoza.
En route to the city of Zaragoza, the train will climb 540 meters in altitude. That's where we'll hit colder temperatures and snow.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board this AVE train bound for Barcelona and
In minutes, we're out of Madrid and gaining speed. The AVE 103 has a top speed of 350 kilometers per hour. But this train's remarkable hustle has nothing to do with how powerful the locomotive is, because there is no locomotive. The AVE 103 has 16 electric motors, positioned under 4 of the wagons. Together, they produce nearly 12,000 horsepower. Distributing the powered wheels along its length gives the AVE 103 more traction and faster acceleration than a conventional train. That means it can carry more passengers at higher speeds. It took 13 years and over 9 billion euros to build the track infrastructure between Madrid and Barcelona. And sections of the 621-kilometer route gave engineers like Jordi Julia nightmares.
This line has maybe 45 tunnels, totalizing 50 kilometers of tunnels. 50 kilometers of tunneling is quite a lot. The longest one has almost 5 kilometers. And it has maybe 50 viaducts, totalizing 32 kilometers. So this is quite a lot of engineering.
Sharp turns and steep inclines are the enemy of speed, so engineers had to make the line as straight as possible. It was the only way to make a train go fast enough to compete for business travelers.
To go from Madrid to Barcelona, we have two very good airports and a lot of flights. We have a motorway, and we had to have speed trains.
It worked. The promise of a 2.5-hour sprint from Madrid to Barcelona lured passengers away from the competition.
If people take the AVE, we're taking passengers away from airplanes.
While air traffic between Spain's two biggest cities has dropped by more than 50% in the last decade, over 11 million travelers ride the route annually in record time. Unless weather plays the spoiler. So this is the high plains part of the country, and this part of Spain gets more wintry conditions and snow than the rest of the country, but this amount that we're seeing here today is pretty rare even here, and it can present a lot of challenges for the train, and it looks like it might actually be an issue today. The train is generating a blizzard in its wake.
On snow days, the weather conditions are not ideal for traveling at 300 kilometers per hour.
It's even worse than expected.
The driver can't see behind him, he can only see forward. So he calls us to go to the rear of the train to check out how much snow there is.
It's not the snow blowing behind the train that's the problem. It's the stuff that's freezing underneath. That ice could jam the wheels and threaten the train's stability. The high-speed AVE 103 usually hurtles along Spain's busiest rail line.
We transport approximately 27,000 people every day at an operating speed of 300 kilometers per hour with very reliable service.
30 minutes out of Madrid, the train should be at its cruising speed. But today, the snow is a safety hazard. Train controller is on the phone right now with the driver of the train because apparently what's happened is that some of the ice that was built up on the sides has fallen underneath, and that can be really dangerous. So they're determining what to do right now.
There's a lot of snow and it's kicking up a lot of powder. It's almost impossible to see behind. And you can barely even see the tracks.
However, it's underneath the train where the real danger lies.
When we pass through at high speed, the ice jumps up from the tracks and into the engines of the train and can cause damage.
The staff doesn't want to alarm passengers, but there's good reason to be cautious. The snow kicked up by the turbulence can stick to the warm undercarriage and sides of the train. The snow melts and then can freeze around the bogies, choking the axles, reducing traction, and compromising the brakes. If the train was traveling at full speed and the brakes failed in these conditions, it could derail. In colder climates, trains are particularly vulnerable to ice. In November 2015, a Canadian freight train was derailed by ice-damaged tracks near Banff, Alberta. The crew suffered only minor injuries, but 15 freight cars plowed into a creek. Snow and ice on the line makes a train crew nervous.
The radio telephone is for communicating with the CRC Center, which runs the infrastructure.
Driver Jamie calls into the train traffic control center in Zaragoza.
Now we need to call them and tell them what's happening.
With dozens of trains passing along these high-speed tracks just minutes apart, a team of people and computers are in constant communication with the drivers to make sure the passengers are safe and the trains are running on time.
Puesto de mando alta velocidad, Zaragoza.
An operator in the control center is closely tracking the AVE 103's speed.
Maquinista 3083. Sí, te comento. Era para comprobar si llevas la limitación de velocidad que es establecida a 160 kilómetros por hora por nieves.
Icy tracks make it tougher to control the train.
It behaves a little differently. It skids more.
We'll definitely be late for our stop in Zaragoza. Every train passing through the snowstorm will have to slow down, wreaking havoc on the schedules.
When the trains pass over it, the snow gets compacted and turns into ice. That's the problem we need to avoid.
The control center has to quickly juggle traffic.
Here we have two trains going in the same direction at the same speed.
Huge screens display real-time train activity based on sensors that monitor 810 kilometers of track, from Madrid all the way up to the French border.
What they do is manage all of the signals, track equipment, switches, and other devices in order to guarantee the safe movement of the trains.
On board the AVE 103, it's a slow and careful pace.
The job of a driver is an important one because we're responsible for the safety of the train. We ensure that none of the systems fail, and in the end, it's us who control the train's technology.
After 100 very cautious kilometers, Jamie's train clears the snowy high plains. So he can finally accelerate to the regular cruising speed. In 110 kilometers, just 20 minutes from now, he'll start slowing down for Zaragoza. The AVE 103 doesn't rely on friction-based brakes like conventional trains. It uses electric brakes. As the train rolls down the tracks, it draws electricity from the lines above to power its motors and drive the wheels forward. To apply the brakes, electricity is cut, causing resistance within the motors. This resistance slows the train down, generating electricity as a byproduct that's either released as heat or sent back up to the electrical grid. Returning power to the grid saves on energy costs. In the coaches, passengers don't care about the technology, only the convenience. How are you, Teddy?
Hi, Alberto.
Are you going to Barcelona for work, for business?
Yes. Today I'm going for business, but usually I take the train for visiting family and friends. Barcelona with friends.
Alberto Pordomingo works Monday to Friday in Madrid, but comes to Barcelona every weekend. So why do you choose to take the train?
Because it's very comfortable and punctual, and it's easy for me.
During the day, there are so many trains using the high-speed lines that crews only have a narrow window to repair the tracks and power lines at night. Maintenance manager Jorge Aiza oversees work on the rail bed.
This machine simulates the passing of some 50,000 tons between the axles. It allows the ballast to be perfectly set.
The machine is called a dynamic rail stabilizer. It vibrates the crushed rock bedding so it settles evenly under the railway ties. That improves the stability of the rails and aligns the track for a smoother ride. At the same time, the electrical crew checks for bad or broken connections.
The most complicated things are the power failures when the contact line snaps. If it suffers an excess of voltage, or if a bird knocks it, or the suspension wire falls, the line would be cut, and there could be no train traffic for up to 24 hours.
The metal power lines and tension wires expand and contract with temperature changes, so couplings can work loose.
They are going to unscrew a turret, and get access to the pole, the brackets, and the insulators. We have to check that there are no elements that might fall off or become loose, because that could cause a serious incident.
Crews inspect 3 kilometers of track and power lines every shift. Back on the train, the supervisor knows they're behind schedule.
We've had a 20-minute delay because of the snow, which has limited us to 160 kilometers per hour.
Still, the crew can't afford to push the accelerator too hard. In 2013, a high-speed train driver tried to take a curve too fast and had a catastrophic accident on the line. I'm on my way from Madrid to Barcelona aboard the AVE 103. We're only 5 kilometers out of Zaragoza. Given the 20-minute snow delay earlier, Supervisor Victoriano can't waste any time during our upcoming pit stop.
As soon as the passengers step off and the new passengers come aboard, we'll leave right away.
Spain's high-speed trains have a reputation for not only running on time, but doing it with a remarkably low accident rate. Still, no train is immune to human error. And safety systems thought to be fail-safe can have flaws.
There was a big accident in the north of Spain with dozens of casualties.
The accident happened on July 24th, 2013. Just outside Santiago de Compostela. The driver of a passenger train was on the phone just before he tried taking a curve at 170 kilometers an hour, twice the posted speed limit. The train crashed into a concrete wall. 80 people were killed and another 144 were injured. The driver was charged with reckless homicide.
The driver committed a mistake, but many people say that even committing a mistake, that the train should be safe.
Since the disaster, Spain has improved safety monitoring and controls. At the main traffic control center in Zaragoza, operators rely on ERTMS, the European Rail Traffic Management System. The safety system automatically slows down a train that's going too fast.
The ERTMS system has a great advantage. It allows trains across all European railroads to operate together.
To manage traffic and signaling, sensors in the track bed show the location of every train, where it's headed, and how fast it's moving.
All the sensors on the line communicate with us through the cables that you see here.
The technology ensures a safe minimum distance between all trains.
So ERTMS increases the number of trains that can be in operation on a given line.
As the train passes over the ERTMS sensor, an antenna underneath the train collects the signal, and the system analyzes its speed. If the train is traveling too fast or risks colliding with another train, the driver is warned to brake. If they don't react, the safety system automatically slows the train down.
The distance, or the time that there can be between two trains, is approximately 3 minutes. While with other safety systems, the distance or time between one train and another can be 6, 8, 10, or 12 minutes.
307 kilometers north of Madrid, we're stopping at Zaragoza Station, the midpoint of our journey. On the platform, Victoriano watches as passengers disembark and new ones come aboard. After a couple of minutes and a final look for late arrivals, he hops back on the train.
Están allí grabando.
Now with clear weather, Jamie punches the throttle and accelerates to 300 kilometers an hour. The Spanish government plans to double the length of its current high-speed rail system to 7,000 kilometers of track. As Spain expands its high-speed network, overcoming the difficult terrain here has become one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the country's history. The result is a multi-billion-dollar investment, and tunnels and bridges like this one are a big part of that work. Part of that ambitious track expansion is underway in Spain's northwest, between the cities of Zamora and Orense. Today, construction crews are working near the town of Requejo. In this terrain, laying every meter of track is a battle. Even small mountains are too steep for high-speed trains to climb, and too broad to build the rail line around. The only solution is to tunnel right through. At the west end of the mountain, the entrance to the tunnel has to cross under an active train line. So Juan Pablo Villanueva's construction crew has come up with a unique tunneling method.
We are currently using this pushing technique to cross in a bypass under the conventional line and thus avoid suspending the service.
First, excavators dig out a cavern inside the mountain. Then, 15 powerful hydraulic jacks gradually push a more than 4,000-ton concrete box into the space. The box will form the structure for the tunnel underneath the active train tracks. It's a painstaking process.
To complete the operation, to move 100 meters will take around a month and a half.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the mountain, crews don't have to contend with tracks above them, so they use a conventional method to tunnel.
We are going to connect the explosive device to the trigger line in order to detonate the explosives.
Digging with dynamite. Outside the town of Requejo, Spain, construction crews are set to blast through a mountain to build a new tunnel. It's part of the massive effort to expand Spain's high-speed train lines. We're deep inside this tunnel. The end of it so far is actually just around that bend, and it's about to get even longer because the crew here have rigged the rock wall with explosives. They're gonna detonate them, and I've actually just been told that we need to get out of here now. The blasting crew is taking it slow, advancing just 1 meter at a time. The first step, detonate 250 kilograms of gelatinous dynamite. Once the dust settles, crews remove the rocky debris. This tunnel extends 300 meters beneath a mountain of slate and granite. As crews blast and dig out the rock, the weight above causes the new tunnel to sink at a rate of more than 3 centimeters a day. So crews install steel trusses and spray the walls with concrete to keep the tunnel from collapsing.
Most of the difficulties we have encountered were in the tunnels. We had one section compressed up to 30 centimeters.
Once the trusses are covered in concrete, the blasting crews move in again.
The cycle is repeated 3 times a day. So at the end of the day, we have made progress of approximately 4 or 5 meters.
It's slow going, but eventually this tunnel will give trains a straight 2.5-kilometer shot right through the mountain. Even with the longest high-speed rail network in all of Europe, more tracks are still being built, and it's estimated that within a few years, 90% of Spain's population will live within 50 kilometers of a high-speed track. In Barcelona, a city that already has an extensive track system and one major train station, there's still more construction of a massive new second train station in the city's north end.
The La Sagrera station will be the largest building in the city of Barcelona and will have multiple levels.
The new station is still years from completion, but is expected to handle over 100 million travelers annually. Back on the AVE 103, engineer Jordi Julia is eager for construction of the new station and additional tracks to finish.
The new stations will have 8 for high speed and 8 for commuting trains. So this will make the system more stable and more reliable.
High-speed train expert Iñaki Barron thinks this incredible effort to build a rail network has changed how Spain sees itself.
Yeah, when I was a child in the school, everybody says, well, in Spain, railways are not very performing because Spain is a very mountainous country. The most important enemy of the high-speed lines is the cost. And the most important enemy of the cost of high-speed lines is not the mountains, but the population areas.
Despite the terrain and sprawling cities, engineers built the tracks relatively straight, which allows the motors of the train to reach their maximum capacity of nearly 12,000 horsepower. It's an incredible train. Do you still find it amazing when you're on it?
Sure,
yeah?
Sure. You know, now we are traveling at more or less at the same speed of a Formula 1 car. We have no seat belts. You are confident that at any moment you can be standing, sitting, taking a coffee.
In the cockpit, driver Jamie Arroyo still gets a thrill from the speed.
At first, driving at 300 kilometers per hour, that speed, it shocks you. Then you start to get used to it. And man, high speed is exciting.
Like most high-speed trains, the AVE 103 is powered by electricity, drawn from the national grid into substations along the rail lines.
We're verifying the absence of voltage. It's important because if it hits us, we'll be dead on the spot.
This substation is humming with electricity. Crews temporarily cut the juice to check the fittings along the power lines.
Those are the aluminum wires through which 400,000 volts feed into the transformer. All the associated bolts have to be checked once a year to make sure that they're tight. Otherwise, hotspots could appear, and a hotspot might end up burning and creating a huge problem.
On the Madrid-Barcelona line, we have 15 substations. Approximately, each substation powers 50 to 60 kilometers.
The main grid feeds 400,000 volts of electricity into the substation, where it's converted down to 25,000 volts. That current then flows through the overhead lines and down into the transformers on the train. There it's reduced again and converted into 4 separate 750-volt charges to power the train's motors.
The design and regulations are such that if one of these substations, even if it goes down, there will be no problem. The neighboring stations allow us to keep providing power without reducing the trains or reducing the speed.
If the AVE 103 used diesel rather than electric engines, the weight and volume of the fuel alone would slow the train down and pose a fire risk. Instead, the overhead lines provide an efficient power source without the weight penalty. For more than 25 years, Spain's AVE trains have set the speed standard for rail travel. And the country aims to stay ahead of the curve.
There's a lot of work being done on technologies that produce more efficient engines and aerodynamics that provide train shapes that use less energy.
Spain is looking to an innovative company to build the next generation of high-speed trains. It's amazing to think we're going around 300 kilometers an hour right now because it's a very smooth ride. It doesn't feel like it. The train is clearing the tunnel near Mont Blanc, and now we're just 80 kilometers from Barcelona. For the entire trip, the driver has been regularly triggering a safety mechanism that ensures he's paying attention.
This is the dead man's pedal. This lets the train know that we're here and nothing has happened.
Our driver, Jamie, has to tap the pedal at regular intervals.
If I don't lift my foot, after approximately 30 seconds, it'll warn me with a whistle that I have to lift my foot and tap it again. If I don't do that, the train will automatically brake to a stop.
The fail-safe technology is standard issue on AVE trains. Although trains have been used in Spain for more than a century and a half, it wasn't until 1992 that the country leapt to the forefront of high-speed rail technology.
We didn't import one technology. We imported the best train with the best signaling from different countries. And everybody said, it's not possible, it will never work. Look, it works.
It was a stunning transformation. Prior to 1992, Spain's train system was outdated and notoriously slow. For more than 140 years, its trains used tracks of various gauges or widths, all incompatible with the track standard in the rest of Europe. Then, Spain's switch to high speed raised the industry standard. Today, the government's goal is to provide train service anywhere in the country in less than 4 hours from Madrid. The future is bright for high-speed rail in Spain, and its fleet is about to get an extreme makeover with the addition of brand new state-of-the-art trains. Spain is spending over 860 million euros for Spanish company Talgo to supply and maintain a new fleet of trains for the next 30 years.
The AVE train has some of the most advanced systems in the world. Proof of that is that it's fully automatic.
Though the train has a driver, it can be operated remotely from a control center. The advanced train is smarter and weighs less than the AVE 103.
We're doing a lot of work on materials, making them lighter, similar to aircraft.
This is the world's lightest high-speed train. It can cruise at 330 kilometers an hour and hit a top speed of 365, all while using less energy than current high-speed trains.
In fact, our Talgo trains, for the same length and weight, are 100 tons less than other trains.
Talgo has also built high-speed trains for customers in Saudi Arabia. The latest Avril will carry up to 521 passengers. Plus, it's equipped with special axles that automatically adjust to match any gauge of track.
What does that mean? The operation of our trains is much more efficient than others. Our trains will be able to travel from cities that do not have high-speed lines to cities that do have high-speed lines.
Vías de alta velocidad con ciudades que sí tienen vías de alta velocidad.
These new trains will play a key role in the future success of Spain's high-speed service. But a lot depends on how well the rail network can stand up to the forces of nature. While accidents can be prevented, natural disasters cannot. And in Spain, tornadoes and floods are the biggest threat. In December 2017, a cyclone ripped through Spain, driven by 140 km/h winds and torrential rain. Without proper infrastructure in place, the flooding could have been devastating to Spain's train network. Few countries are immune to natural disasters, including cyclones, flooding, and earthquakes. And in Spain, they all pose a threat to the high-speed rail system. One reason behind its world-class reputation is the quality of Spain's infrastructure, like tunnels designed with a gentle slope so floodwaters drain out at the lower end. It's very important to get that work right when you're going this fast.
Yeah, if you don't keep this quality, so then you're not going to be able to travel that fast.
The pressure on the line's civil engineers was intense.
I think many engineers suffered a lot because they had to work very fast and with some concerns about if everything will be perfectly okay.
In the end, all that attention to detail paid off.
It's just a really nice experience. It's comfortable, you can walk around, as you can see we're hanging out in the bar car. You know, we don't really have that on a lot of airplanes or you're doing a road trip.
It's definitely a unique traveling experience. The landscape in Spain is awesome, and this is the way to see it.
What I like the most about my job is the people I'm meeting on the train, transporting them, seeing their happiness.
As the AVE 103 reaches the outskirts of Barcelona, drivers have to slow down because of multiple curves in the final 20 kilometers of the journey. While the crew prepares for arrival, the train enters a long tunnel that stretches into Barcelona. Construction through any crowded historical city is always a challenge. The last 9 kilometers of the line into Barcelona were particularly complicated.
The arrival of the high-speed line to Barcelona, to the station, was done while maintaining the commuter and regional services in the same station. And that was really a very difficult challenge to manage.
During construction, the high-speed line had to take over the main corridor into the city, disrupting regular traffic to the tune of 1,000 trains a day. However, most would say it was worth it.
I always say you just have to take it. You have to take the train, you have to try it at least once.
From Barcelona's Substation, travelers can step out into the city center, pick up a regional train, or take another high-speed train north towards France. In spite of delays, today's train trip only took 2 hours and 50 minutes.
After all the snow we had, I think that it went great. The train behaved very well.
With fast city-to-city service set to expand dramatically, high-speed rail has a promising future in Spain.
I'm very proud of this train because I've known other kind of trains in my company, and it used to take us 7 hours to get to Barcelona. We didn't go any faster than 140, and voyages seemed to last forever. And now, in 2.5 hours, you can be in Barcelona. is wonderful.
The AVE 103's success reveals how much travel habits have transformed in Spain. Well, here we are, Barcelona, and in very little time given the distance. I love learning about the tech at the core of this high-speed wonder, about the maintenance required to keep it running on time, and meeting some of the people behind one of the greatest high-speed trains on Earth.